Old money. What is it, and where can we find it? Well, in the United States, it refers to an elite class of individuals for whom money has been in the family for generations. For some, it could go as far back as the colonial days of America. For others, perhaps only 100 years. Generally, it is those who come with at least 4 generations of inherited wealth, together with high social status. As the South played major roles in America's history, one can expect it to be no stranger to old money. Welcome to Schmancy, the place where we talk all things rich, exclusive, and fancy schmancy. Today, we're diving into those upscale communities scattered throughout the southern states that may not necessarily be the richest in the nation. However, when you come across them, you certainly pick up old money vibes. Our tour will take you down the Mississippi, along the eastern coast, and to some random spots we bet you didn't even know about. And yes, we are going to talk about how these locations accumulated their wealth in the past. So without further delay, here are the top 10 old money communities in the South. Number 1. Lookout Mountain in Chattanooga, Tennessee. For generations, Chattanooga has had a very old money elite social crowd. And still today, the same families continue to lead the city through business and politics. However, not many outside Chattanooga are aware of the enormous wealth that surrounds the area, and the city's vast array of philanthropic foundations. The vast amounts of wealth come from old Coca-Cola money, as Chattanooga was the site of the world's first Coca-Cola bottling company. Prior to that, the world-famous beverage was only sold from the tap. At the turn of the 20th century, this brilliant endeavor made many families very wealthy, primarily those living among Lookout Mountain, an upscale part of town straddling the Tennessee and Georgia border. Set high up on a ridge, Lookout Mountain is known for its luxurious homes, as well as breathtaking views and tourist attractions such as the Steep Incline Railway, Ruby Falls, Sunset Rock, and the Battles for Chattanooga Museum. Number 2. Middleburg, Virginia. They say Virginia is for lovers. But for this video's sake, we'll have to say it's for the gentry. The Virginia gentry. If there's anywhere in the South most obsessed with lineage and old British titles, it has got to be Virginia. And 40 miles outside of Washington, D.C., in western Loudoun County, is a small country town known for its rich history, its inns and resorts, and equestrian lifestyle. The town of Middleburg got its name in the colonial era, when it was the halfway point for those traveling between Alexandria, Virginia and Winchester. It is known to have hosted many of the wealthy and political elite during their travels or weekend getaways, such as George Washington, the Harrimans, and the Kennedys. Residents here are the descendants of the first families of Virginia who were granted large estates by the British Crown during the colonial era. These wealthy and socially prominent plantation owners would often copy the pastimes of British country squires, thus beginning Middleburg's long-standing tradition of fox hunting and steeplechase. Today, it's actually quite normal to see some of its well-heeled locals walking the main drag fully clad in equestrian gear while walking their foxhounds. This is a place where descendants of the gentry still carry old British-style names, such as Preston Harris Corbin III, or Thurston Ratcliffe Stevens IV, and so on. While we're still in Middleburg, we might as well throw in some of the neighboring towns in Loudoun County, as well as Fauquier County, as they are all a part of Virginia's Hunt Country, and home to rolling hills, distinct wineries, sprawling estates, equestrian facilities, and of course Virginia's old elite. Number 3. Charleston, South Carolina. Once the largest trade hub in the South, this active port city quickly became one of the wealthiest cities in pre-Civil War America. In the rise of the antebellum period, many a Charlestonian made their fortunes in the transatlantic slave trade, as 50% of the slaves that were brought into America passed through Charleston. The city was also known as an urban center for plantation culture, building its wealth not only through slave trade, but also through backbreaking slave labor on its numerous plantations. Similar to other colonial states, South Carolina had its own first families that were known as the wealthy elite ruling class during the antebellum years leading up to the Civil War. Many were based in Charleston, and many were the traders and plantation owners. Ultimately, the Civil War brought financial ruin for much of the wealthy elite, as they had sided with the Confederacy, and could no longer turn a profit on their plantations after losing the war. Many eventually sold their properties to the nouveau riche industrialists of the North, looking for winter retreats in South Carolina's warmer climate. Today, Charleston is still a very wealthy city, as the city has managed to rise from the ashes and rebrand themselves as a highly attractive tourist destination, with a plethora of historic sites to visit. Though a small handful of the southern gentry still remain in Charleston, they are outnumbered by the new, old money. Mainly the heirs of wealthy northern industrialists who had paid their way into Charleston during the Gilded Age. Number 4. Natchez, Mississippi. Named after the Natchez Indians, this historic city is known for its grand antebellum homes and for having a tense history. Situated along the Mississippi River, Natchez was the hub of Mississippi's slave and cotton trade, and many of its wealthy pre-Civil War residents made their money through these two lucrative businesses. The city came second, next to Charleston, as home to the biggest slave market in the South. So much so, that by 1850, half the millionaires in America lived at the top of the Natchez Bluffs. Today, with its core industry turned tourism, and having transcended its racial past, it is far from being one of the nation's richest cities. Due to the majority of the wealthy residents siding with the Union Army, many of Natchez' historical buildings were not destroyed during the Civil War. And so many flock to Natchez today, as it is known to have one of the most endless display of old antebellum mansions in the entire United States. Number 5. The historic district of Savannah, Georgia. Quite similar to Charleston and Natchez, this moneyed city was another coastal city with an active commercial port during the 1700s, well into the antebellum years. With the invention of the cotton gin, Savannah became the nation's third largest exporter of cotton. Many grew wealthy through cotton and rice plantations, provided by the free slave labor. With so much newfound wealth, residents built lavish homes throughout the city. However, the most luxurious part of Savannah is the downtown historic district, featuring magnificent townhouses underneath canopies of oak trees dripping with Spanish moss. Though Savannah's economy crumbled during the Civil War, legend has it that the city was spared from destruction due to the Union Army becoming so mesmerized by its beauty. It was instead offered as a Christmas gift to President Lincoln. Business still thrives in Savannah today. However, the key industries are now aerospace manufacturing and technology. Number 6. New Orleans, Louisiana. Again, here we are at another port city, and we're sure at this point you can probably guess just how most port cities in the South grew their wealth back in the day. However, New Orleans was settled by the French, then the Spanish, then the French again, and finally the Americans, making the old wealthy elite from a diverse lineage. By the mid-1800s, many of the prosperous plantation owners and traders who wanted to show off their wealth moved into townhouses in the French Quarter, the decadent mansions of the Garden District, and other affluent suburbs. However, by the mid-1860s, the Civil War had brought an end to their type of prosperity. Though New Orleans was spared from destruction, the city wasn't so lucky on the economic front. And many who depended on free slave labor could no longer turn a profit on their plantations. And so, much of the wealthy elite were forced to sell their townhomes in the French Quarter, and return to the suburbs for a more modest lifestyle. Today, the city's elite class still live in the grand mansions of the historic Garden District, as well as the Audubon area. And though still a major port, exporting all sorts of goods and raw materials, New Orleans now retains its wealth by specializing in aerospace manufacturing, petrochemicals, and of course, tourism. Number 7. Mountain Brook, Alabama. Alabama may well be one of the poorest states in the country. But don't let that fool you, because this suburb of Birmingham is known as one of the wealthiest cities in the entire South. Developed in 1926 in the days of segregation, today it welcomes anyone and everyone. Just make sure you come with money. Lots of money. If you can get into one of their elite clubs, or have the white jeans ladies welcome you with open arms, then you too can call Mountain Brook, sweet home Alabama. Though this small city of 22,000 only goes back a handful of generations, they wasted no time establishing a pedigree-based society, even moving in some of the oldest money in Alabama. Today, Mountain Brook is an exclusive microcosm of grand estates and privileged residents, with a hierarchy system the new money folk may not be well prepared for, but will definitely have to get used to. Number 8. Highland Park, Texas. They call this place the Bubble, because it's not a part of normal reality. Established in 1907 exclusively for the rich, there's a strong whiff of old money in this Dallas suburb of immaculate parks and opulent mansions. The heirs of Dallas's first families are known to live here. These are members of the Dallas gentry, who established the city back in the late 1800s, and amassed sizable fortunes through various enterprises, such as cattle ranching, real estate, saddlery, banking, shopkeeping, and more. Throw in some of that inherited oil money, together with the offspring of foreign dignitaries, and there you have it. And as expected, Highland Park has its share of rigid social structures, SMU and Ivy League graduates, invitation-only private clubs, and a strong case of affluenza. Number 9. Bellmead, Tennessee. Formerly a 5,400-acre plantation that was sold off in 1906 and later developed into a suburb, Bellmead is where the old money, as well as many high-profile individuals choose to call home. Many members of Nashville's first families are known to have settled in this 3.1 square mile city that sits right outside of Nashville. As one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the area, it has a timeless European look, and feels more like a park scattered with luxurious homes, than a suburb. Of course, as with any old money community, it has its share of exclusive country clubs and elite private schools. As for the original Bellmead plantation house, it has been converted into a historic site and winery that's open to the public for history tours on all who lived and worked there. And last we have number 10. Palm Beach, Florida. Despite all the new money billionaires and the wannabes that flock here, you'll find that old money still has a tight grip on this glitzy resort town on Florida's east coast. They call themselves the Old Guard, and would prefer that the influx of tourists and new money adhere to the rules and standards of the Old Guard. However, it's a losing battle for this traditionally exclusive South Florida community. The new billionaires in town have no interest in pandering to the old establishment. And so, the establishment must learn to adapt. Standard Oil tycoon Henry Flagler was instrumental in developing Palm Beach into a paradise for the wealthy during the Gilded Age. He put the island on the map by first constructing the Royal Poinciana Hotel in 1894, then the Breakers Hotel in 1896, and finally his own Whitehall Mansion in 1902. Palm Beach quickly became known as the place where the tycoons and financiers of the Gilded Age and Roaring Twenties would build their winter estates. Today, the heirs of these families can usually be seen donning the Lilly Pulitzer on the prestigious Worth Avenue, or golfing at one of the very selective private golf courses. And though a new day has dawned, they still have their roles to play on this posh little island, as they proudly uphold their social statuses based on wealth and lineage. And that's it for the top 10 old money communities in the South. Now we know, we didn't include some locations. We also know there are plenty in North Carolina that should have been mentioned, but there were way too many to choose from. If there are any other locations that you feel should have made this list, then by all means please do share it with us in the comments below. Furthermore, if you got any value out of this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon so you never miss out on another video. With that said, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. And we'll see each other next time.